Hey Rockstar, Steve aka Void here. Welcome to another episode of RIFFSTARTER, where I help you play your favorite riffs by playing. Let me try that again. I help you play your favorite riffs from day one by removing the annoying speed bumps and roadblocks that get in your way. Wow, a little bit of a brain fart. I had a speed bump in my mind there. It's been a little while since I broadcasted. So I hope you're having a great day so far. All the strategies can be found in my best-selling book, Practice Less, Play More. And yeah, if you want my help, my personal help to play your favorite riff or your favorite song in 30 days or less, then what you can do is you can check out my full song fasttrack.com. So that is, wow, that is the first time that happened. Big time brain fart on RIFFSTARTER. So I hope you're having a great day so far. What we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at Sweet Child of Mine. This classic riff is one that actually, speaking of full song fast track, this is one there. Nice. Christopher, nice to see you, buddy. So yes, we're working on Sweet Child of Mine right now, and also, this is inside my Guitar Inner Circle. Lots of people working on Sweet Child of Mine right now, which is very, very cool. And so this song has a lot of speed bumps and roadblocks that could potentially get in your way, and so we want to remove those. And I'm going to show you the whole purpose of this show is to help you to remove those because we're using my play from day one methodology. And what we're doing here is we are taking a song, and instead of trying to match your current skill level to the level of the record or the riff, what we're going to do is we're going to take the riff and we're going to match that to your current skill level. That's how you play from day one. So from there, what you do is you upgrade until it sounds like the original, or until you scratch the itch. And what I mean by that is until you're satisfied. Maybe you upgrade it a little bit and it sounds close enough, and then you move on. Okay, so let's talk about how we're going to simplify this. But before we do, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the tab, and I'm going to show you what most guitar players would do. Okay, and I'm going to show you this here. So and you know what, I think wow, we're having technical difficulties galore. So here we go, this there, let me just double check real quick. Okay, yeah, I think we should be good. Wowzers. I think there's a ghost in the machine over here. Okay, so this is the tab, and typically what we'll have is, we'll look at the first notes here, and we will kind of just take a left to right approach. This is almost like it's just like processing data. Like we're going from the first note here, and then we go here, and then what's next, and then what's next. I call this face value. Okay, and what's interesting about this as well is how this song, as most GNR songs, you're going to be tuning down a half step. Now, for a lot of people, that is going to be an issue, like because you might not know how to do that, or it might just be annoying to actually tune down a half step. Now what I have is so there's a couple of options here. You could either match your guitar to the record, okay, or we match the record to your guitar. Now what that means is we could go onto YouTube and we could search, let's say, Sweet Child of Mine standard tuning, and so you'll get a version that sounds like this. It'll sound like, okay. If you tune down, it'll sound like this. Now, if you want it to sound like the original, then you could either tune down, which is not that big of a deal, but you could tune down, or you can get something like a Digitech drop pedal. That's what I have. Digitech makes a pedal where you can just tune down. Like here, I'm just playing the same thing. Excuse me. So we have... So I'm playing in the same location, but the pedal is going to shift it up or down, or it's going to basically, like I have this is standard. Okay, and then if I press the button, and now it's matched up with the record. So you can do this if you want to, but you just want to be aware of it, that either you're going to match to the record or the record's going to match to you. And so if you want to match it to you, then you're going to either need to take the file and bump it up a semitone or a half step, or you're going to go onto YouTube and you could search Sweet Child of Mine standard tuning, and someone probably already did that for you. Okay, now face value is typically going to look like this, where you just go one by one. So you would go like, and you're just playing each note, and you don't know necessarily which finger to use, you don't know what pick stroke to use, but you're just going one by one by one. Now the interesting thing about face value is it seems like, okay, well, I'm just playing it just like the record, so I'm gonna get there faster, right? If I just play the song just like the record, this is what's on the tab, so this must be what's on the record. And so what ends up happening is, I mean, sometimes it might work out, but very often what's going to happen is if it sounds like this on day one, like that. Let's just say, because you're still figuring it out. I don't know, on day 5, it might just sound like a faster version of that. Like, or it might be good at the beginning, like, and then maybe further down the road, then there's a gap, and then because you can't really remember what happened here, or maybe it's like disconnected. So face value is not really going to be the fastest, even though like you're getting right to what's on this tab and what's probably on the record, because the tab was transcribed from the record. Usually it's going to take longer to do that. And so what I recommend you do instead, again, is you, instead of trying to match your current skill level to the level of the record, you match the record to your current skill level, and that's how you play from day 1. So what we would do instead, first, I'm going to just share some ideas with you. That's what the show is all about, just sharing some ideas with you of what you can try. And just try these things out, and these, one of these or more of these is going to help. So first, we can start with subtraction. So it's funny because I just saw, if you ever watched the movie Step Brothers, so funny. But there's a scene in there where they introduce his brother, Will Ferrell's brother, and he's inside his car with his Bluetooth headset, and he's singing with his family. And what's funny is, besides the scene being hilarious, and I highly recommend that you check it out, just search Step Brothers, Sweet Child of Mine. But it's how they sing the intro. They're not doing all the notes. They're not going. They're doing something like something like that. And it's interesting because that idea of subtraction. Like, let me switch back over here. Hopefully it lets me. Yeah. So the idea of subtraction, where you're not playing all the notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, where it's like. You can just remove. Typically, the hardest part about this riff is the last part, the string skipping. So what you can do is you could just take, let me go back to the tab here, take these 2 notes out, subtract those 2 notes, and look at how much easier that whole riff is. It would go like this. It would go. Now you might be thinking, yeah, but Steve, that's not the riff. That doesn't sound like the riff. I want to play the riff. What you have to understand is this is just day 1. You want to be able to play this musically and confidently from day 1. So if you go like this, let's just say then the next one, you might be able to make it through the entire riff just by removing the 2 notes at the end of each section, like this here, these 2 here, and sorry, my computer's not letting me do it, but the 14th fret, 14th fret on the 3rd string, removing that string skip. Just removing the string skip could unlock this entire riff for you, okay? So that's the first thing. That's the first speed bump or roadblock, is these string skips. And if we get rid of those, then very often you can play this from day 1. And then from there, then you could upgrade. Maybe you just take one of those, maybe you just remove this one, and you have, it would sound like this. So by holding this note for longer, you actually can get a little bit of you press the reset button to come back to this note here. Okay, so what the riff could sound like as a play from day 1 version. You can play it like that, and then that's something that you can follow along with the record. You're again, you're simplifying it to your level. Maybe string skips are a little bit weak for you, so you simplify it to your level, and then you play from day 1. And then you could upgrade and you work on the string skips, like, okay, cool. Or you hold the notes down like that at first, and then you start to separate it on day 3, let's say. But what's cool about this is this actually gets you playing the song a lot faster, playing along with the record a lot sooner, and you also remember it for longer because you're not overwhelming your brain with a ton of information. What's so funny is actually at the intro, the beginning of this episode, I guess, I don't know, maybe because I haven't broadcasted an episode of RIFFSTARTER for about a month or so, that I overwhelmed my brain, I guess, trying to remember the first part of the episode, the intro. So it's like when a brain is overwhelmed, that brain fart, that stop that happens, it's going to disrupt your flow, and you're going to, it's not going to sound musical, it's not going to sound good. So that is totally legitimate by subtracting those notes there. Now, let me just double check. Oh, another thing you could do is this. You could also, you can play 1 bar on, 1 bar off. You can go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you're playing along with the record, you could do 1 bar on. So 1 bar on, 1 bar off. 1 bar on, 1 bar off. And so that's another way that you could tackle this, where you could play the whole thing, okay? And you probably get it faster because you're only focusing on, you're not consistently playing and having to rely on stamina. So you can just get that going. So 1 on, 1 off. So bar on, bar off is another one here that you can play. Another thing you may have noticed is I'm playing this with downstrokes. So you can do this with all downstrokes to remove any complexity with the picking at first. It might slow you down a bit. But because you're not dealing with downs and ups, that might help you, because the alternate picking could be a roadblock, especially when we go with this part. Inside the string picking, down on this string, up on this one, you have to kind of like go in between the strings. So that could be a little bit of an issue. So I would start with downstrokes only. Okay, and then you could start to add in the alternate picking. The third thing that I wanted to just mention is what fingers are you going to use, because Slash uses 3. I use 4. A lot of guitar players use 4. So you basically, I'm actually starting to mess up my muscle memory because that's funny. I was just going for the ring finger there. Typically, I use the pinky. Okay, so this is how I would play. This is how I played it in the intro, I believe. Actually, maybe I played with the ring finger and the 3 fingers, but this is typically how I play Sweet Child of Mine. So I use 4 fingers. I use 1 finger per fret, basically. But that might be easier. It's funny, like 4 fingers might be easier for you than 3, okay? But try 3. I would also even recommend doing one finger, and here's why I would recommend that. This is a tool that you could use where you can actually use this to remember the riff, because if you point to each one, you're not relying on the finger's muscle memory. When you point to each note, it shows you, almost like you're pressing buttons, it shows you that you really know what notes to play in this riff. So you can go like this. It would be slower. Or even the simplified. You can combine the techniques. You can go... Okay, and so you can combine that with the simpler, the subtraction that I talked about earlier. But what's cool about that is obviously you're not going to play the riff like that. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. But it shows you that you remember where to play the notes, and then out of necessity, you're going to use, like, imagine these are like other friends. The other fingers are other friends that are going to help you, that they're going to support the like, let's just say you're moving and it's going to help you. They're going to help you lift furniture, and it's going to be easier if you have friends helping you rather than if you did it all by yourself. And so here, what's going to happen is eventually the other fingers, by them taking those jobs, it's going to take the pressure off of the 1 finger. The 1 finger is just for memory. It's just like a memory test. But then I added maybe the 3 fingers. I know which notes are supposed to be played, but I use the other fingers to help that. So it's just an interesting thing to go to. Like, you could start with 1 finger, and then the other fingers are going to help because you're working off of something that you just remembered. Okay, so you mix and match these techniques, and you can also subtract the notes, because I would recommend doing this first. I'd recommend doing that at first, and that could be just day 1. And day 2, it's not like you're doomed to play like that for like 8 months. It's on day 2, you can then add in the string skipping, or you could go... just so that you're not playing this constant pattern without any relief, okay? Because if you're playing that, like, it's just, there's going to be some potential roadblocks there, okay? So I just wanted to start with those 3. Okay, these have worked for me. This has worked for a lot of my clients, and so they prevent that speed bump or that roadblock that you might hear when you have this sort of stop and go version of the riff. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. Again, man, I gotta go back to, I want to see that moment where I had that brain fart in the intro. That was very rare for me to have that. But I'm gonna go check that out. And but it's real. That's what we do over here. It's real. If you want to play your favorite riff or play your favorite riff, turn it into a full song, then definitely check out fullsongfasttrack.com. You'll have to add your name to a waiting list, but I'll reach out and we can talk about what riff or what song you want to play, and then we'll talk about see if it's the right fit to get that riff or song under your fingers. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Riff Starter, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.